My name is Kip Karges. I'm with Poet Nutrition. We're the largest producer of ethanol in the country at this point in time, with a little over 1 billion gallons of annual production. And we're going to produce roughly somewhere in the neighborhood of 2.6 to 3 million tons of dried distillers grains. My topic today was to address what the trends are in the feeding ethanol business regarding the co-products. And I'm going to give you a brief summary of some of what we talked about. The overview really is quite simple. We're looking at the ethanol industry, the feed products as far as availability, technicality issues, and then a little bit on some feed research. Regarding the production of ethanol, you can see this is a typical schematic of what goes on behind the doors of an ethanol plant. The BPX process, which is patent technology for the Poet Industries, is something that we utilize in all of our plants except for 2 currently. We essentially eliminate the jet cooking phase and the mash cooling phase, which you can see on your chart, and it goes down after that, and it's pretty much a very similar process to the rest of the whole plant. Now, what does the BPX process allow us to do? It allows us to produce ethanol a little bit more efficient, and allows us to remove a couple of huge energy sinks in the process, and that would be the jet cooking and the mash cooling phase. And like I said, after that, it is pretty much a similar process all the way through. The DDGS that we produce from this type of process is no different than the rest of the industry. Basically, you take whatever nutrients are in corn and you multiply them by the factor of 3, and that's essentially what we're going to find. I would point out we are monitoring mycotoxins, and that's something that's not generally talked about a lot in the beef industry. Essentially, the alpha toxin 1 is what I have listed here. They do not typically follow the same pattern as far as a 3-fold increase. They can do that as far as a minimum, but we've often seen them at times go higher than that, 4, 5, 6 times higher in concentration. And so that's just something from a beef standpoint that we probably need to be getting on our radar screen and paying a little bit closer attention to. This process that you're looking at here is essentially our beef rack process, and the reason I'm showing this to you is we are currently doing this in 2 of our production facilities, and at this point in time it's rather unique from the standpoint we produce 2 or 3 different products that we don't normally produce. The first of those is germ, corn germ dehydrated. It's a full fat germ, 22% fat, 17% protein. After that we go into endosperm. That's a high protein distiller grain, 40% protein, low fat, 3%, lower in phosphorus and lower in sulfur. We also have the bran segment coming off there, where we combine the bran, which is the outside kernel of the corn, with the syrup, and we make a product there which is predominantly used in cattle feed. A little bit on the growth of the industry. We've seen a tremendous amount of growth over the past few years, and we're going to continue to experience a tremendous amount. We potentially anticipate by the year of 08 that we're going to be somewhere between 18 million and 20 million tons of distillers grains to be marketed through the ethanol industry. Now, as far as marketing opportunities and getting rid of all that distillers grains, this slide here basically shows different species and the annual tons of feed that were consumed by that particular class of species. If you look at percent inclusion rates, you can tell how many tons of product we'll be able to feed. And if you go back to 03, it looked like we're going to be a little bit over 13 million tons that could potentially be fed in the United States. Now in 06, with higher inclusion rates that we're seeing today, we have the potential to consume over 26 million tons of distillers grains in the United States. Is that necessarily going to happen? I don't know. But it looks like if it doesn't happen, the DDGS export market is taking hold, and we're going to see more and more of our DDGS probably being exported. And so that's something that we have to be cognizant of and look for in the future as far as the supply and demand chain is concerned. Some nutritional considerations. We all realize that it's high protein, high fat, good fiber levels. It's a very unique product from the standpoint it's a one-size-fits-all. and it can become in a variety of different forms. The sulfur content and mycotoxins are issues that we have to address as an industry, and overall the variability of the product is something that's been an issue for us. And with Poet, we try to make sure with every load of product that we produce, whether it's in that large pile of loose distillers grains out there on the far right, that it's the most consistent that we can possibly make it. Mycotoxins, for just briefly, they're concentrated, like I said, threefold, maybe even greater than that. They're not going to be destroyed during fermentation or drying. We have yearly and geographical variation, and this year we're seeing large amounts of alpha toxins being produced already. The variability of DDGS is illustrated in this slide. Acid detergent insoluble crude protein down there in the middle of the slide. You can see the standard deviation numbers that are in the red. We have high levels of these standard deviations from an industry-wide sample. Essentially, it was 10 samples that we utilized here, or University of California, that is, utilized in this particular research project. We had a lot of variation from an industry standpoint. From a single supplier standpoint, though, which is off on your right, we see lower standard deviation numbers. Again, know what you're buying before you buy. If you can buy from a single source, it might be advantageous to look into doing something along those lines. Sensitivity analysis, this was done or presented at the Plains Nutrition Conference earlier this year in San Antonio. Basically, in a nutshell, the NEG value of corn from the NRC value is 70. If you look at given DDGS 110% the value of corn, we end up with that average number right there in the middle of your screen for net energy value for distillers grains being around 77. Essentially what the authors did here is they went plus or minus 1 or 2 standard deviations. You can go down through this slide, and the take-home message is know what you buy again, because if you get down there, differences in dollars per DGS per ton, if you're back 2 standard deviations off your energy value, that can cost you, or it should be, that particular DDGS should be discounted towards you at least $14 a ton. But on the other side, you can afford to pay up to $16, closer to $17 a ton premium for a product that has a higher NEG value. Again, know what you buy. We have some unique analysis that are out on our webpage at poetenergy.com where we give out nutrients for our products, and I would suggest to the listeners, if they want to go out there, jump out there on the webpage, and there's a variety amount of information out there that can hopefully be beneficial to you. Challenges and opportunities that we see, it just depends on a lot of different things, but the biggest challenge that I see probably looking at the industry is a combination of forming some type of synergies between the livestock sector and the ethanol industry. Bottom line, what I'm saying there is we don't want to see all this distillers grains exported, because there is some nutrient qualities to distillers grains that can have a huge impact on your operation. It works very well with forage diets. It works very well in the cattle feeding situation. There's very limited effect on carcasses when the distillers grains is fed properly. I think that's been shown throughout this conference. And so I guess bottom line, know what you buy before you buy it. That's the take-home message. Thank you.